So I just quickly want to refresh your mind. The break-even point, break-even literally means that your costs and your fixed costs are even. So from this point on, the only cost that needs to be covered is your variable cost. In other words, if you look at your contribution here, the 20 Rand selling less the 16 Rand variable, it gives me a 4 Rand. Once I've accumulated enough 4 Rands to cover the 200 Rand profit, the 200 Rand fixed cost, then that 4 Rand becomes a profit. Okay, so let's quickly do this one. So, what is my total fixed cost? You can see there, 14,400. What is my selling? Now the bottom. So remember, the top is total price. The bottom is variables. Okay. I can't believe I'm taping this. I'm talking very democratic. The bottom is per unit. So let me repeat again. The top is total. The bottom is per unit. Okay. So let's see. Selling price per unit less variable per unit. Now if they don't give you the variable per unit, I remember my direct, in other words my prime cost, plus my sales and distribution is my variable. And if they tell me how many units was produced, with this we are working with what is produced, né? Because we want to calculate our production stuff. Then you divide it by the units produced, you'll get the variable cost per unit. Okay, but in this case they gave it to me. Can you see my contribution is 32 Rand? Meaning how many 32 Rands must I make before the fixed cost is covered? 450. So that 450, when do I start making a profit? On how many units? 451. Ne? So once I produce more than 450, which is more than 450, is my profit. And can you see, in other words, what do I want? I want my break-even point to decrease and my production to increase, because I want the gap between my break-even and my production. I want that gap bigger, because the bigger the gap, the more my profit. Obviously, more than break-even. If it's less than break-even, I'm making a loss. Okay. And then I told you Friday, I asked you, so if I ask you a question, how can I make faster profit? And then we did the fixed cost thing, and then we did the selling price. Your easiest thing is to make your selling price increase, right? The other option is you want your variable cost to decrease. And then if I go, look, what is my variable cost? My direct material, my raw material. And how can I make my material cost per unit decrease? Remember, we're not talking about the total price, because the fact of the matter is that your material does become more expensive because of inflation. Okay? Now, we want to know per unit, right? So, how will you get your direct material costs down? And you just quickly think the two most logical ones is you change your supplier, né? You can, and the second one is you make your workers more productive. How do you make your workers more productive? By training them. Because if they are trained, they're going to work faster and they're going to have less wastage. So with material, you always go look at the supplier and you go look at wastage. You want less wastage. What is wastage? You have to bake muffins, right? So I don't teach you how to bake muffins. So your first 7 batches you burn. Can those batches be sold? No. So now it's going to now it's already 7 batches, and I still haven't even started covering my cost. But can you see, if I train my worker, now he knows, oh, I shouldn't keep it too long in the oven. You see? And now it's less. Now he only burns the first one. Can you see, already it's less wastage. So the other 6 batches I already can start selling. Yeah. You guys get how it works? Then, direct labor, same thing. First thing you look at is the overtime. You want the overtime to be less, because once someone works overtime, you need to pay them more. For overtime, you don't get your normal wage. Okay? So your normal wage might be 10 Rand an hour, but your overtime would be 12 Rand an hour. So you don't want people to work overtime. And the only thing you want is you want then your overtime to be less. So how's the 2 ways that you can get your overtime less? The one is you make them work shifts. How does that make sense? They see norm time as 40 hours a week. 40 hours, 8 hours a day. Now I'm asking you, do they say in the daytime? No, it can also be at night. So what I do, if I have a factory, is I divide shifts. So, you come in, you work 8 to whenever, to 5. Then you come in, you work 5 to 8. You come in, you work 8 to 5, whatever. But can you see, your machines never stop, and your production never stops, and you never pay overtime. Yeah? Because everybody works 40 hours. Or, another way to prevent overtime is what? Same as with the material. You train your workers. You have proper management, in a sense. Your factory manager or overseer checks that your people don't take too long lunch. They check that they don't sit and chat on their phone when they should be working. You see? All of that makes you more productive. And then, you guys always forget about sales and distribution. What's the easiest thing to comment on in sales and distribution? Marketing. Marketing, your advertising. So, what are you going to do to make your advertising cheaper? You're going to see. You can go digital, use more social media, whatever. Okay. So, let's go on. Next question. Did I copy this one for you? They want you to calculate the break-even point for each one. Didn't I copy this for you? Okay, so then we're not going to worry about that. We're going to go on to